Welcome to Ag Ammo and Adventures, a show where we load up on insight, pull the trigger on truth, and blaze a trail through the back roads of agribusiness, science, and rural grit. From feed yards to field labs, deer blinds, and boardrooms, this is the podcast where Iowa roots run deep, stories run wild, and your hosts come fully loaded. I'm Todd Coffelt, farm kid from the South, stuck in the city, and with me is Steve Larsen. Steve, what's going on?
I am coming to you live from the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, Todd Father.
Did you get lost?
I think Bugs Bunny told me once I took a left turn at Albuquerque, or wrong turn at Albuquerque, and ended up here in Estes Park, which is it's a beautiful area, but it is you don't realize how long of a trip it is until you drive through western Nebraska and eastern Colorado. There's not much to look at, Todd.
Well, so this definitely is going to fall under adventure, and you're out there for a purpose. Are you able to achieve the purpose, and what other opportunities have you been able to take advantage of?
Yeah, the boss and I decided to take a last-minute vacation, wanted the vacation to be within driving distance, and then get back before the big Iowa State game, which we're going to touch on later, the big rivalry game coming up Saturday. And it's been a fun trip. I will say, Todd, western Nebraska, it was extremely green. I believe they've got copious amounts of rainfall this year. There was a lot of green out there, a lot of hay still being put down, a lot of bales in the fields. It was great to see.
Is that past the irrigated portion of Nebraska? You're starting to get into the toe of the mountain lands and whatnot?
It was a combination of some was irrigated and some was not. But it was all of it was green, whether it was irrigated or not. Obviously, the irrigated portion should be green because it's irrigated, but there was some non-irrigated stuff, the center pivots, and there's a lot of hay out there, Todd. I don't know if you realize that with your operation, but there's a lot of hay being made out there.
Yeah, let's do a little mathematical equation on what that means, just so everybody's on the same page. Last year, when there was hardly any hay, it was $50 to $60 a bale. This year, it's going to be about half that much because everybody has hay, and some of it's not that good. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what people do to mix it and add some protein, or if you're going to see it move on the market just a little bit.
Well, that more hay on the market and probably fewer cattle on the market as well. So you're seeing a convergence of fewer head to feed, but more hay out there for cattle.
Well, and people might start rebuilding the herd. I don't think that's true because the prices are too good, and I don't think people can pencil out. I'd be interested in knowing how people are going to pencil that out, because I think we're all looking for the right way to do it. We, for this time of the year, we just started our calving for our fall herd. So there are four little babies out there welcoming their moms to motherhood, and they're looking cute as the dickens. And it's always a fresh reminder for the fall getting started in September here. But, some of the other reminders that are going on this time of the year, you mentioned the Iowa State game, and that's a big rivalry game, and the talk about whether rivalry games are going to be able to be maintained in the future. That's something, and hopefully we can keep that one. But for football to start, school has to start. And it kind of got me thinking that with school starting, a lot of things come to my memory. And, riding the bus as a kid living in the country, and then the teachers, assignments, classmates. And you're a small town kid, but you lived in town, correct?
Yeah, right on the edge of town. Absolutely.
Did you have to ride the bus, or did you have to traverse the dangerous neighborhoods?
I was a half a block from the elementary school and 2 blocks from the high school. And I tried my hardest never to walk, Todd. I tried to get somebody to give me a ride, either the half a block or the 2 blocks to high school. So I did not want to traverse the dangerous neighborhoods of Anita, Iowa.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it. You got to survive. Way that you mastered the skills.
Well, you brought up some of the things that we, late summer, early fall, what comes to my head is hearing the locusts out there. Once you start hearing the locusts, then I know, growing up, I'm like, yep, school's going to start pretty soon. I can hear the locusts going, and the days are getting a little bit shorter, sun's setting a little bit earlier, and you just kind of dreaded, at least in my world, you almost dreaded, school's going to start here in the next few weeks.
It's your inner clock was going, all right, get the survival skills sharpened up so you can be successful. But Growing up, my grandparents lived in the country too, and I lived in the country. So on the days I go to my grandparents, I'd be able to get on bus number one. And I'd hurry up and get on the bus so I could sit in the back. And I'd do that on Mondays because Mondays were the best day. Head to grandma's after school. And living in the country, I had to go over some of those old steel bridges, and the roads were always a little bit off. But if you're in the back, you could hit that bump just right, and it'd throw you up and almost knock you against the ceiling of the bus. It was thereafter that little short time period of having fun and getting caught that I spent the rest of the week in the front seat of the bus. So Mondays were always my favorite day to be on the bus, but it guaranteed I was going to be in the front seat for the rest of the week. But there was always a benefit of riding the bus.
How much did you learn riding the bus to and from school? Because when my kids in Urbandale and Ankeny rode the bus to school, their vocabulary and eyes got wide opened when they were riding the bus to and from school, Todd.
You know, you learned content material, but you also developed the skill on when you could share that. On the bus, I'm not going to say it was right, but that seemed to be very fertile ground for people sharing and caring.
Well, and early on, when I was first, second, third grade, somewhere around there, I did ride the bus. We lived a little bit further away than the half a block, 2 blocks. And on the bus I rode, all the older kids went to the back, and then in the middle were the middle-aged kids, and in the front was supposed to be the younger kids. Somehow my brother and I got to the back of the bus, and that's where we learned a lot, and there were a lot of nicknames given back then, Todd.
And in fact, you probably had one when you got to the back seat that you didn't know about until people wanted you to know that they were already thinking about you.
I did. And if you could, I'll circle back on this. If you could remember our great interview with Verrill and Jackie Bailey when he brought up Jeremy Riddle, the Riddle boys were at the back of the bus because they were a lot older than me. And for some reason, they started calling me the Italian Stallion. And I don't know why or how I got that nickname. I wasn't Italian, nor was I a stallion.
We're not on TV, so everybody needs to know that Steve is towhead blonde. And good, strong Danish blood.
What hair I have left, Todd? It is blonde.
It's all
yes,
good.
that is
Keep
correct.
track of it. Keep track of it. You know, so the bus was always fun. We learned things, and maybe retention was more than it should have been. But yeah, nicknames were there, and it was always interesting. There was never a dull moment.
Well, and I have, as you probably do, I have several bus stories, and I'm going to limit it to 2 of them today. One of them was not only riding the bus to and from school, but during athletic events, going to football games on the football team, baseball, basketball, wrestling, whatever it was. I remember I was an 8th grader, and in Anita, 8th graders, once you graduated 8th grade, you could play high school ball. And riding on the bus after a tough defeat, we stopped at McDonald's, and that was back early 90s. And McDonald's had a special going on for 10 hamburgers for $1, but you couldn't buy more than 10 hamburgers per person, which was a phenomenal deal. So we had hamburger eating contests on the bus ride on the way home from the place we were at. But the story is somebody took a pickle on the hamburger and flung it up to the top of the school bus, the roof of the school bus. And the school bus that we took on baseball trips with our shop bus. And Todd, I can tell you from the end of my 8th grade year until I graduated high school, that pickle was still on the roof of the school bus.
Legendary. And people who were there, they knew what it represented.
Well, I don't think the school bus got cleaned too much, according to that pickle on the ceiling.
Listen, I was trying to be positive. I was just trying to be positive there.
And the other story, this one makes me laugh every time I hear about it. So Susie's younger sister lives in the western Urbandale, east side of Waukee. Kids go to Waukee school districts. Their kids got on the bus, and Susie's sister was following them on the bus to get to work, and she noticed one of her daughter's head hanging out the window, and she thought, well, I'm just going to, they have one of those wrist phones. I don't know if I forgot what you call them, gizmos or something like, yep. And so she was going to call her and tell her, hey, get your head inside the bus. So she called her, and she watched her daughter look at her wrist and hit the button, and then the call ended.
It gave them something to talk about later on.
I think the day did not go quick enough for Susie's sister to talk to her daughter about when to answer the phone.
That's, circumstantial evidence will always be debatable in how we go
And
there.
the purpose of having one of those wrist phones so I can get a hold of you when I need to, Todd.
Okay, you start working on the story. You got to have a backup plan. It's going to be a tough one. Mom's view side is always 100% solid.
Well, I'm sure you guys got some of those stories as well, being growing up in the country and riding the school bus and things like that. Probably not a cell phone. I don't think cell phones were around when we were in high school, Todd.
We would, so when the three of us, our two brothers, we'd ride the bus, and the bus would turn off the highway and stop. And at that point in time, being brothers, it was a contest. The fastest person got to go straight to the door that was locked and wait. The second fastest person had to get the key that was hiding, if you will, under the milk can to unlock the door of this old farmhouse. So it was a skeleton key. And the slowest person had to wait for the bus to leave so they could go back across the gravel road to get to mail, which, as we say here, that's kind of a simple thing. But the bus driver always said you have to get across the road and into the yard before you start arguing and wrestling and fighting.
Wrestling, yeah.
And so even though we were all at the same location, by the time we got done tearing at each other, somebody had grass stains, somebody had to get the mail, somebody had to get the key, and it was a free-for-all and whatnot. But you develop skills of tripping, pulling, pushing, grabbing, cheating, but it was survival of the fittest.
It helped you in your later life of wrestling, didn't it?
It
leverage and what to do and what not to do.
It helped develop skills. They needed a starting place. But no, that was a way to keep everybody even, because the first one in, single bathroom farmhouse, you got all the liberties of the first use of the bathroom, the snacks, whatever you want to call it.
I'm just happy to hear that you actually used the restroom in the house. I figured three boys would be the first one to get to the big oak tree in the front yard.
There's a difference between number one and number two. So just once the bus was gone and out of sight, it was open season.
How long of a bus ride was it for you to get from school to home?
It was only 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes, forever, and not that long. Sometimes too long, and sometimes not long enough. Hardly a happy medium. So we're mentioning school, and you've talked about being outside in Colorado, and one of the other things I was recollecting is in hunting, when we have assignments, school has assignments, they're due at a certain time, they have to be done a certain way, and in hunting, we have assignments, and this kind of falls in line with nicknames to that effect, because you have to earn them, and sometimes your actions help you earn them. But I know when we go hunting, everybody has an assignment. You're going to walk here, you're going to go that direction, you're going to stand here or stand over there, and you're going to wait. And no matter how good it is or what everybody else is doing, you're going to wait right here because there's a reason. And sometimes when we do a new draw, a new drive, or when you have a new hunter and you think everybody knows the same thing, but you don't. So when you try to communicate, you say, all right, I need you to stand by this oak tree. You're going to walk in, you're going to cross the fence. There's an oak tree. I need you to stand right there. And to that point, there's a lot of detail that just went in the simple direction was you cross the fence and stand by the oak tree. If you don't know what an oak tree is, or if you don't define a fence as one strand of barbed wire, or it has to have 6 strands of barbed wire, there's some wiggle room that people like to self-insert into this conversation to try to figure out where they're supposed to be, and excitement always gets in the way.
Well, Todd, I'd like to add the ability or lack thereof to wait until the time has elapsed, because 5 minutes feels like 5 hours. And a lot of our drives, especially the ones that I'm a part of, pushing where we have to wait for, it's almost like a cartwheel, right? Hey, there's a group that's coming around, swinging around. Person A has to hook up with person B, and then everybody on the opposite side of person B gets hooked up, and we start pushing. And when you see the people who are waving at you, who may be sending you a message saying, when do we start? Can't we start yet? And just be patient. We are pushing. We have to wait for the other side to link up. And then once we link up, we will start walking. So just wait.
Patience. Patience is a virtue. Now I know why they say that. But no, you're right, because sometimes when you see that, you want everybody to be equal, but there's a strategy. You have to orchestrate movement and whatnot. And
how many times, and Todd, how many times when we're pushing, we go too fast, and the times that we slow our pace down and even stop for a few seconds, that's when the deer get nervous, and all of a sudden they jump up and start running ahead of you and whatnot.
Just like we said they would. But, so no, that's part of it. And listen, we're all learning. We'll get it figured out. No need to push it. You can't force fun. And being patient and walking through there. But like we've identified, some of those areas we hunt, you're on your own. You're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and you don't have stars to guide you. You don't have the sun. You have darkness and fog and cloudiness. And yeah, I can understand. You get a little antsy.
Well, and I'd also say someone's voice, because you always holler to the person to your right and left, "Hey, Steve, where are you at? Oh, I heard your voice. I'm about 10, 15 yards behind you. Hold up for a second. Oh, I'm a little bit ahead. Okay, here. I can't see you, but," because we're yelling at each other. And that's how a lot of our nicknames in the group form, right? Either lack of patience, or field dressing a deer, or getting too antsy, or yelling too much, or you get into the woods and you're 20, 30 yards apart, and all of a sudden you look up and the guy's standing 5 feet next to you and whatnot.
You're not painting a very good picture about our abilities, Steve. I need you to focus and drive this forward.
Well, now that we're talking out loud, maybe I've come to the realization of why we're not getting all the deer that we could have our capability to get, Todd.
Listen, every year is an opportunity to improve. Every year is an opportunity to improve.
Well, so speaking of roles and responsibilities, one thing I'd like to bring up, and we've talked deer hunting and dove hunting, and we're getting into pheasant season. I remember the first time you took me turkey hunting. I don't know if you remember that or not. It was in the spring. It was very early. And what I'd like you to go over with our listeners is, you gave a very good description or vocal annotation of what different sounds of birds sound like at 4 a.m, at 4:30 in, at 5 a.m. I would love for you to go over those sounds with our audience.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe this will be, hey, guess what sound this is, Todd?
Wait, that's terrible. I didn't know there's going to be a hands-on exercise. Good Lord. The first bird that's up in the morning is a whippoorwill. And it sounds...
The whippoorwill.
The whippoorwill. It sounds just like I said, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. And that bird never gets tired. It wakes everybody up and gets the party going in the forest. That next sound is going...
So the whippoorwill, so what you're telling me is the whippoorwill is a partier of the bird world, where they just stay up all night doing God knows what.
I think they're the grumpy old man is the first one to get up. They probably went to bed early, and they're the first one to get up to remind everybody you got to get the day started. Then, let's see, in my mind, that you get some of your songbirds, but then you're going to hear the barred owl, the oh, 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 oh. Yeah, you got one out of me. And that's the one that says, all right, let's get serious about this. And the barred owl kind of lets everybody know that it's getting up. It's everybody, let's get moving. The sun's coming up, and it's almost time. And then
he's getting ready to spread his wings to go go look for something, or are they sleeping throughout the day?
The barred owl, it's a night predator, so it's going to relax during the day for the most part. So they'd be going to bed, I suppose. I'm going to biologist telling me I'm wrong, but that's all right. And then, but they wake the turkeys up. So then you've got turkeys, and they'll start gobbling and clucking and putting up there on the branches, and they sit there, and about the time they get done with that, they get a little shot gobbling in, and then when they fly down, the sun's up, the barred owls are there, and when you can get them to get the turkeys to give away their location, it helps with the hunt. Now, I'm pretty good at identifying the bird sounds. That's not the challenge. Harvesting that turkey is always a little longer reach that we try to get done.
Well, why is it? It seems like when we go hunting and you've got your gobbler going and things are going good and you hear them in the background gobbling back and talking back and whatnot. And you look out at the decoys, all of a sudden there's these other little black spots coming toward the decoys and you get ready and things are getting excited. You're getting ready to shoot. And then all of a sudden it's a family of raccoons and you just go from the highest of high to the lowest of lows of, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Mother Nature has a way of doing that. Mother Nature has a way of doing that. And apparently those raccoons were lonely. They were looking for people to party with for the morning.
Yes, they were. Well, speaking of that, I sent you a video yesterday out here in Estes Park. There was a very large bull elk, 2 cows, and a calf that came to the middle of town. And last night, you could hear them bugling throughout the night. And it was very entertaining to hear them bugling back and forth last night, Todd.
Based on those videos, they were just walking in between the people on the sidewalks and walking by, and the people were standing still. And I'm like, what's wrong?
Well, and you know, being the outdoor adventurer that I am, they were across the busy street. So I hightailed it. I froggered it across the busy street, tried not to get a better camera angle because that bull elk was trying to get into an outdoor store. And then I don't know if you could see that. Just after he tried to get in there, his horns were so big he couldn't fit through the front door. And everybody was around, and everybody was taking pictures. And one of the cows walked right on the sidewalk, right by everybody. And, of course, as people drove by, there was this old lady yelling down, "Don't get too close to those cows. They'll kill you. You need to watch out. Don't rile them up because they'll attack you." All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate the heads up. And just kept walking on by, Todd.
They seemed pretty content with everybody making them famous. They seemed pretty content. That's amazing. What about Northern Lights? Did you get a spectacle of Northern Lights?
Not yet. You know, I saw a dish towel today that says, 40 may be the new 60, but as I get older, 9 p.m. is the new midnight. So I have not been staying out too late to see the Northern Lights yet anyway. But tonight is our last night here, so there's going to be an effort to see if we could see the Northern Lights.
There you go. 10 o'clock, here you come.
I know.
Too good, too good. Now let's see. So I've had a lot of people. In our last episode, you made it sound like anybody could get a nickname. So I've had people inquiring about what's my nickname, and you kind of laid it out that way. People are listening going, well, what's my nickname? And can you give me a shout out? And we're going to have a little bit of work to do with that because you get in trouble when you start handing out nicknames that you really keep in your mind between your ears.
Well, they didn't realize you were the Todd father. Well, and last night we were eating at this brew pub called the Fat Bear, P-H-A-T. And the boss looks at me and says, "Hey, you could be the Fat Bear." And I don't know if that was a compliment or an insult. I have yet to figure that out. But she said, bring that up to you today and see how that marinates a little bit.
The Fat Bear. We can make that work. There's a mini-series, The Bear, and that was pretty good. So you could be the Fat Bear.
PH.
PH.
So everybody knows PH, Fat Bear.
The PB,
right.
Fat Bear. Too good. We can make that work. We can make that work.
Well, so now if those are reaching out to you, like I said, Bagpipes wanted a nickname, so she got a nickname. We got Rubber Ducky and Sigs. Anybody special out there on your side that's wanting a nickname that we need to somehow come up with one?
On one hand, somebody near and dear to me said, do not refer to me as your first wife, or there will be an accident in our house. So the boss lady, she made it very clear which one she was partial to. So I'm glad to send that one out.
Well, so that means we're going to have boss 1 and boss 2. And 1 and 2 don't signify a hierarchy. It just signifies differentiation.
Listen, if we have to take the time to distinguish, it probably means we're in a lot of trouble. So we'll use that as a stalling tactic.
Hashtag truth. Hey, speaking of that, when did it become hashtag rather than $sign or $sign, Todd?
That's beyond me. I don't know that I could tell you that.
Okay. Well, we'll hashtag it then or something.
Right.
So this weekend, we went to Doc's Trap Shoot, Doc's Outdoor Adventure, and had a phenomenal time there with, 3-4 dozen of our closest friends.
It was good. It was good stuff. The rain was kind of a downer, and we didn't do as much shooting as we wanted to, but wow, we had some good food.
Yeah, I didn't shoot because when I clean my gun once a year, I didn't have to re-clean it because it got wet for rain, Todd.
Good job. Good job being responsible.
Or lazy. I don't know which one it is, but that was a good time. Good food. The fish is always phenomenal that they fry, and the little servers bring it around, and you hope that they don't walk by you or forget to look at you when they got a pan full of fresh fried fish.
You know, I'd say there are probably about half as many people as there are usually. So I had more than my fair share of fried fish. It was done right. Done right.
I wonder if Doc takes suggestions, because I would love to have a little cup of tartar sauce so that when you get your little fish, you can just dunk it in not double dip everybody out there. We're not double dippers, but that first dunk, just dip it in there and have a first bite of tartar sauce.
I know what somebody could bring next year to complement the presentation. I like where you're going with that.
Help remind me, because I'm not going to remember to bring tartar sauce for next year.
Only 363 days to go.
Only.
Only.
Right? I can barely remember yesterday, let alone 360 days ago. So what else is going on, Todd? I'm out here in Colorado. How's the big state of Iowa going?
Cooling off. We're getting a little bit of rain today, and we're getting taste of the 40s tonight here in the central part of the state. So everybody's going to start thinking about the coming days. Dove season happened, and teal season opened up, the early season. But it was a little tough when it got cool last week. The speculation is most of them took off, and I haven't seen very many in my backyard to compensate for not seeing any in the field. But,
did you get any intel? Did anybody go dove hunting? And if so, did they see the doves? Did they actually go through?
I have very little intel to add to the situation. But for the folks, duck hunters didn't have, the ones that I talked to did not have much luck. And then the other factor is nobody was bragging about how many they had. I've hardly seen pictures. Some people have been able to harvest a few, but there isn't a group of people with 15 in front of each person. So, hey, wish the best of luck. And sometimes that just happens with the weather in the fall like this.
Absolutely. And that's part of it. So that'll get us looking toward next year for dove season, in preparation and planning for that. But before that, we've got migratory bird season is opened, and then the end of October is the big pheasant season opener. Todd,
numbers are up this year. I don't know if everybody's seen the report, but numbers are the highest they've been in almost 20 years for roosters, for quail, and for rabbits.
Oh, really? Quail and rabbits as well, huh?
They're looking good. And it's interesting. We had a wet summer. Spring was okay. Summer was wet, but they responded well. And I'm sure in the future we'll see the correlation between habitat and numbers and being able to raise the young, but it is looking like a great opportunity this fall.
Being a scientist, I often wonder, what are I don't want to call them critical factors, but factors that affect pheasant populations. Is it amount of rain? Is it timely rain? Is it predators? Is it weather patterns? Is it X, Y, and Z? Is it a combination of everything? Because my simple mind looks back at the previous years, and I don't know what significantly changed, other than you said the summer was a much wetter summer than we've had in the past. But what has changed, or what is being done to help that pheasant population? Do you think about that, Todd? Or is it just me?
I think, who you're going to ask is going to come up with an answer. And whether it's the habitat end of it, whether it's the timing, and, that survey they do, the roadside survey, they'll identify if they're seeing young ones, older ones, because if they're successful, they can have multiple broods, and that adds to the numbers overall. And I know when people go hunting in the fall, there'll be long feathers, there'll be short feathers, there'll be mature roosters, and there'll be some young roosters that you're like, whew, thank goodness there's a color feather on you. But yeah, there are a lot of factors go into that.
Well, it gets extremely difficult when you have participants in your hunting party that yell out rooster and hen on the same bird, and eventually goes to the now infamous roo hen comments that when a bird flies up, trying to signify other hunters of what's coming toward them.
It's better to confirm. The sun can be bright. It's amazing how many get up with the sun as a background. But like you're saying, and you've identified, communication is very key in hunting, whether it's with the assignment, with the identifying of the species, or just yelling. It's communication is key.
It sure is. And like every other scenario of my life, I need to work on communication.
I don't know too many people that don't. That's okay. That's okay.
But yeah, so that's coming. So pheasant season's coming up. To get ready for that, we need to plan some game farm visits to make sure that we our guns haven't bowed at any significance, so they're still straight, and we can't blame the curvature of our gun on our inability to put a pheasant down.
It happens every year, regardless of the effort to limit any impact that storage has, but it happens every year. I'm sure we're not the only ones. But, the crops are looking good. Not too many people have started taking out. Some silage shoppers are going and whatnot, but everybody's kind of hanging on, seeing what they're going to do, and the market's not helping. But I know time is going to get here, and it'll be time to start the harvest, and hopefully the weather's helpful for that.
I will say before we left to go to Colorado, the last couple days, so what was that, Saturday, Sunday, the corn was really starting to turn brown, and I saw some of the, they were dripping down, Todd. So
the ears are starting to
cobs,
hang? Nice.
The ears were starting to hang. It was starting to turn quicker, but the majority of beans were still pretty green. I didn't see very many beans turning yellow or brown yet, but the corn seems to be turning pretty good.
The beans are looking good. Corn's looking good. I'll give you a little scouting report on our food plot. That corn the ears are not hanging down. In fact, it's about waist high if we round up in the whole measurement. And we're going to get a little bit of nutrients on there so it can end on a high note and then get the weeds knocked down. But we're going to have to get turnips and radishes out there pretty soon. And we're going to have a dry period here, it looks like, and then some water. So it'll be good timing on our part.
It seems like from the pictures you sent to the group, deer really like that green corn that is about knee-high or lower to nibble on and eat the leaves off of.
They like it when the leaves are whirling coming out of the stalk. There just has to be a bunch of sugar right there, and if it's along the trail, they like nibbling on that.
And beans, right? So even the first couple of leaves coming off the beans gets nibbled on pretty. So you have this little stem coming up.
No, and they do. The proximity, it'll be interesting to go back down there. We've had some dry weather, but it's pretty easy to find their footprints when they get a little mud on there. And the other part of that is as they start to use that, then they'll remember. I know they say that if beans can get eaten in the beginning, when it comes back up, it'll split the trunk. And it will grow two trunks coming out of there, which the theory behind that is you'll get twice as many beans, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works out. And it's not appreciated twice as much when that happens.
Well, the positive is we're not using this to do any combining in the fall. This is strictly for getting deer in front of cameras and feeding them to get them bigger and girthier.
We're trying to help the process. And this is planning. We're learning as we go. And just like in hunting, you try one thing and the next year you try something else when you're party hunting, because experience is kind of that thing where you failed a lot of times and you're trying to help other people learn so they don't make the same mistake. So that's kind of what the group hunting is good for.
So in the last podcast, I asked you your favorite dove recipe. And maybe that was a jinx because we ended up, neither one of us went dove hunting. And I love the cream cheese, jalapeno, bacon wrapped dove breast. What is your favorite pheasant recipe? Do you have a favorite pheasant recipe?
I'd split it between two. The mushroom soup. Slow-cooked mushroom soup with onions and gravy, essentially make it nice and thick. That's a good one. But I'm a big fan of pheasant nuggets and kind of cut them up into cubes and bread them and get a little seasoning on there and serve them up that way. They're pretty delicious.
Now, do you have a go-to seasoning? Like for me, when I do a breading and frying, I love to put some type of Cajun seasoning on there, like a Creole crawfish type of seasoning. I think that goes well with fried pheasants.
That's put it right there. Get a little ranch on the side or ketchup if that's what your flavor is. But yeah, something just
Maybe
a little,
Tabasco.
a tinge of
Do you
nice.
want Tabasco?
Yeah, a little touch of love. Get the burn on there, and then just cool it off with ranch is about perfect.
Or a big positive in the Larsen household is blue cheese.
Oh.
So ranch and or blue cheese. That little cooling of the liquid part of blue cheese, but the tangy when you get a crumble of blue cheese on there is phenomenal.
That would be amazing. That would be perfect.
Which I think that's a really good segue into the Iowa State game and tailgating and favorite drinks and food at a tailgate, Todd.
Well, let's knock out the regulars because we're going to Iowa State and Busch Light's going to be at the top. So that's going to have to be, let's mark that off and say that doesn't have to be the one. Any good tailgate has to start with the Bloody Mary. The Bloody Mary needs to have pickles, needs to have olives, a chunk of cheese, a meat stick, and you got to make a meal out of it. And it's just a whole experience. And that way you've got breakfast covered and you're ready for the game.
Well, speaking of that, so, everywhere you go, there's a distillery or hometown brew or whatever. We purchased spicy Bloody Mary mix, and we got to taste it before we bought it, and it was phenomenal. And so we at the Larsens are going to have a tailgate party, our first time ever. Rented an RV, got a spot, going to do tailgate. So we bought the Bloody Mary mix. Right next to the distillery, there was a beef jerky store. So we've got Bloody Mary beef jerky, pickled beef jerky, and Carolina Reaper beef jerky that we're all going to use as the meat stick in our Bloody Mary.
See,
Todd.
listen, I didn't miss that by too far. You throw some olives and a pickle in there, we're going to be golden.
And again, I'm a stickler. The only vodka to use on my end is Tito's vodka. So we're going to stop by probably Costco and get us a big old jug of Tito's vodka to put in there.
Game day, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong.
No. And also part of the distillery, it was a good and a bad thing because you got to sample anything you wanted to in the distillery. So I took them up on that opportunity, and they had peach moonshine, lemonade moonshine, honey moonshine, sweet tea moonshine, regular moonshine, those same flavors and whiskeys. And by the time I left there, I was feeling pretty good, and ended up buying some peach flavored whiskey, which tasted just like a peach gumdrop. And we were thinking that if you bring that and put it in some orange juice, and I don't know if you call it a fuzzy navel or a screwdriver or whatever, but that would be an excellent drink at the tailgate.
I wonder what that's going to taste like. That'll be a crowd favorite for sure.
You're going to find out.
There you go. That'll be a crowd
Saturday.
favorite. See, Steve, you didn't really say what your go-to was. What I heard you identify there was you try anything once.
Yes. Well, and like you brought up, there's some staples that you need to have at a tailgate, especially game times at 11. Tailgating's going to start at 6 in the morning. So the breakfast or early morning food and or drink is going to dominate the Larsen tailgating experience.
Good. Listen, nothing could go wrong. Build it and they will come. You know how that works.
Right, and we're going to have some pecan cinnamon rolls show up at some point during the tailgates for the morning, and then we got our Blackstone grill all seasoned up, so bacon, eggs, sausages, all that stuff to clog your heart will be served in copious amounts that morning, Todd.
Game day, you got to get your game face on. It's going to work just fine.
But but we're not going to go into the game. We chose to bring a TV and going to watch it from our tailgating spot. So we are also going to have some pulled pork. We're going to make some macaroni and cheese. We're going to do some corn casserole. It's going to be, and some burgers to have during lunch.
Oh my! So what's you're going to put the bat signal out so people know where to go?
Absolutely. And what I'm going to tell you is, I'm a big fan of Whistle Pig, so just look for the Whistle Pig sign because there's going to be a lot of Whistle Pig out there. I don't know that there's much that's better than Whistle Pig, but we'll bring that as well.
I feel like the words you have not used are, this is going to be a weekend event for me, and I'll be there till Sunday afternoon. Too good. Well, that sounds amazing.
It should be. Again, it's our first time doing this. The Larsen way is, if it's going to be the first time, we're jumping all the way in. We're going to go to the Iowa State game, and it's going to be a great event. So looking forward to everybody stopping by and saying hi. And I know that this podcast will drop after the game, but we'll make mentions of who stops by and who doesn't. So we'll have a roll call.
Listen,
how about that? We'll call it roll
nicknames will
call.
be handed out. Nicknames will be handed out. You may have to be the Whistle Pig, Steve. Just going out on a limb here. You're the one that's introduced that to our group. Just throwing that out there.
It's a fan favorite. And good ideas like that, I think we need to start a tradition that, hey, if you think Whistle Pig's a good idea, just say bump. That's all you got to say on the podcast. If that's a good idea, just say bump. Bump.
Very good. Well, look at that. And this is your first ever hosting a tailgate. So it looks like you're going in at the top shelf. You're going to be good.
I would say that it is not only our first time hosting a tailgate, it's our first time tailgating.
Perfect. Because that way you don't know what could go wrong and how to prepare against it. You'll be fine. Trust the crowd.
Just like the Boy Scouts, we're going to prepare for everything, Todd, and we're going to adjust as needed.
That's awesome. Looking forward to it. That's going to be good. Good. Now, so that's a big game. We've got, I don't know if you've noticed lately, the trash talking for this generation has taken over TikTok, and I'm like, there's some of that stuff I can hardly read to myself. It makes me blush. It is just a little bit aggressive.
Well, even at Doc's Trap Shoot, there's a good contingent of Hawkeye fans and Cyclone fans. And as always, I brought my Cyclone chairs. You know where my allegiance is, even though I've got a daughter that goes to the University of Iowa, and I'm working on smiling when I say that. So even though you all out there can't see me smiling, I'm smiling. There wasn't a lot of trash talking on the Hawkeye side, given the effort that the Hawkeyes put forth that Saturday compared to what the Cyclones did in Ireland and then that Saturday. The Cyclones they're looking good.
They're looking sharp. Yeah, it was kept to a low murmur. I think mostly because the host was a Hawkeye fan. So everybody's going to make sure they were able to eat before they started throwing the mud and whatnot.
Well, and as always, I don't think there's any alcohol at Doc's Trap Shoot, which is a good deal. So there wasn't anybody getting all liquored up, talking and thinking they're Superman or Superwoman about how good Hawkeyes or Cyclones are.
The filters were on. But
yep,
we did. If you recall, we were kind of doing a little crowdsourcing for nicknames. And I think we've figured out that Scotcheroo is going to be a viable candidate for a person.
Well, look, Todd, when Doc's daughter, who makes
Lee,
do you call them pinwheel Scotcheroos or
pinwheels.
Scotcheroos that are rolled up, which are phenomenal, and monster cookies, she sends those with her son every time he came to hunt with us. And he's, I don't know, handfuls, 5-7 years, something like that. When his dad came and forgot the Scotcheroos last year, everybody noticed. Not just one, not just two. Everybody noticed. And everybody let him know that he did not bring. He brought the monster cookies, but he did not bring the Scotcheroos.
I'm not going to say he's been tormented since then, but he remembered that it's a topic, and he did not forget them for the trap shoot.
I think the Sunday of deer season, by that afternoon, when someone started talking and the first words out of his mouth were, yes, I forgot the Scotcheroos, and yes, I will not forget them next year.
Yeah, and I appreciate the condolences, but even the wife and mother said, I tried to remember and tried to get them to take them. They were done. They were sitting there, and we're like, we're not blaming you, but not by any measure. We're not blaming you.
Nope, it is not her fault that her husband and son, both of them, completely forgot the Scotcheroos.
I'm sure it will not happen again.
So we'll put a wager down to see how long it takes Scotcheroo to realize his nickname is Scotcheroo.
I kind of like the other one you threw in there, Scotcheroo and Pinwheel, so we'll have to apply those accordingly.
Maybe the son could be Pinwheel. I don't know. Well, so I heard you telling many people at Doc's that you found last year's first buck, biggest buck pot of dollar bills. And did anything come of that? Did anybody have any ideas of how, what, where, why?
Well, everybody goes through, what I've seen is everybody is going through the same phase of thinking. And it's like, what? Then they try to remember who got the first buck. Then they go, I got the first buck, or I got the biggest buck. And I say no, I say no, I say no. And they're like, well, what are you going to do with it? And I go, we're going to let it ride, double down. And they're like, oh. All of a sudden now the $2 investment becomes $4, becomes $50. I think I have attention collected, and people are going to be into this, and it'll be interesting. Just plant the seed and let it grow.
It's amazing what, let's say you win half the pot, $24, say 48 for like you said, let's keep it around number, $50 for first and biggest. If you want to split it, 25 and 25. It is amazing the stories guys will tell just to win $25.
It's amazing how everybody has a watch now.
You would think that $25 paid for a new car or their house that they're trying to buy, because they are pretty adamant of getting first and biggest buck.
Kids, listen, the glory is held with the people you hunt with. They come back next year to be able to spout and tout, and it'll be good. But this year it's going to be let it ride. We're going to double down and make it happen.
Yeah, we're going to have to position ourselves, because we usually do the same drive the first day and Saturday. And where you and I go, the likelihood of seeing a deer, let alone shooting the first buck, is almost zero. It might even be negative, Todd. I don't know.
Yes, I agree with you completely.
And this year, I've got a new appreciation of the ravines that we've got to go through in south central Iowa, looking at the mountains where I'm at now, because if you look out the windows, it's almost straight up. And I'm like, I get nightmares on Doc's ground having to climb up or roll up a hill. But I think this year, I've told myself I'm going to bring a couple things. One, dude wipes, because after you eat your breakfast at the fire station and everybody seems to want to go to the bathroom at the same time, so you either have to wait and turn and miss the first push, or go to the first push and play Russian roulettes, if you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to bring dude wipes for anybody and everybody. And two, I learned this from other people in our group, I might bring a sandwich, because those ravines, if I get lost and don't make it out, at least I'll have a sandwich to tide me over for a while.
You know, the skills that don't have a value, because you'll never know when you're going to need them. I remember, and I hope we're going to interview Doc next episode. One of the stories I hope he tells is one of the first years they hunted that, they set people out and you walk a mile, you're a mile wide, you walk a mile from east to west. Before they set everybody out, they're like, if you get lost, just walk toward the interstate, because it's close to the interstate. You can hear the sound. So they hunted it, and one guy didn't make it to the end, and come to find out, he got turned around. He walked to the interstate, and as he walked to the interstate, and that's backtracking. That's backtracking almost 2 miles from where you started, and he went back, got a ride back to the thing. And everybody else was spending hours looking for him in the dark, yelling his name. And he's like, well, you said walk to the interstate. He said, if we got lost, walk to the interstate. He's like, well, how'd you get lost? And he's like, I get lost everywhere I go. Says we were talking about who to walk next to, who not to walk next to. We try to compensate for those people and say, I need you to stay right here. Don't touch anything. Don't move. Don't look at anything. Stay right here.
Well, and Friday night, instead of feeding our faces full of great food and alcohol and playing cards, maybe we have a reading a compass 101 so that everybody knows their directions.
It'll be easier Friday night when nobody's holding the gun barrel. I know that one time we had to read a compass somebody, Doc, was reading the compass pinned to his coat, and he would hold his gun barrel right there so he could look down next to it, and that needle just followed that gun barrel wherever it went, and that's where north was. And I was younger in high school, and when you're that age, you don't know anything, and it was hard to convince Doc that you're walking east and we're trying to walk south. No, look at it right here. It says this, and Doc, that way. But it worked out.
Well, maybe we take a step back. How many times, whether you're a seasoned hunter down there or a new person coming in, you look at them and say, I need you to start here, and I want you to walk straight east or straight north, whatever the direction is. And they look at you going, what?
Nobody knows. That internal compass is not alive in everybody, is what I will tell you. The state of Iowa is built on a grid. We had a bunch of engineers that made it square and flat, and roads are that way. And the sun comes up in the east, it goes to the south, and it sets in the west. And that's just a challenge of, I need you to walk south. Which way is that?
Well, and I'm going to go back to one of our first discussions on here of most of these ravines do not go north and south or east and west. So once you go down and come back out, you come out going, where do I need to go now?
Survival skills. You can't teach it. Everybody's different, and we've all gone through it, but there are definitely people you don't want to walk next to.
That's why I'm going to call it my survival pack. I'm going to have a couple sandwiches, dude wipes, and it's throughout these podcasts, we're going to keep adding to the survival. And we would love to hear everybody's idea of what should be in a survival pack once you go out there into the deep woods of Southern Iowa.
That would be a good one. Everybody's going to have something and it's going to be based on their experience. So yours sounds like it's because you almost starved to death, but I know our group doesn't ever struggle from that.
Well, sometimes I eat 4 meals a day in the event that I may miss a meal later on some other time, Todd. So that was what I had to get used to when before I started deer hunting with you guys. Deer hunt in Southwest Iowa, we'd get up early, have a decent breakfast, go out and hunt, and then we always broke for lunch. We always went to some small town, got a burger, got back out there, hit it. And then when I got to your group, I'm like, all right, hey, yeah, it's about noon. Are we breaking for lunch? And everybody stared at me like, what is this guy? Todd, why did you bring him?
I was the guy that said, who brought that guy? Who brought that guy? No,
and I found out that I think it was your brother Paul. I shouldn't blame him. I think there's a lot of people in the hunting group where we bring a lot of candy, and the wrappers tend to end up in the candy bag. So the candy bag could be completely empty of candy, but it is full of wrappers. So nobody knows how much candy or food we have left, Todd.
I battle with that ghost, not me, is the one that always does it, but not me. It never gets caught. Not me.
Or they're like our kids. I assume your kids are this way. I know mine are. They'll shove the wrappers in the back of the seat, under the seat, between the seat, in the door jambs, and before you know it, you got a vehicle full of wrappers.
Did very much. We're all just grown-up kids, I think. We're all just grown-up kids. Too good.
That just means we got to treat them like kids. The hunters. We got to treat the hunters
well, they
like
understand
kids.
better. It works out very well that way.
That's why you've got a big map, and the map never changes, Todd. And
No.
every year we bring out the big map, and we tell people where you're going, where the pushers are, and walk this way. And every year, again, this is going to be a reoccurring theme on these podcasts. It still takes an hour to talk about the same push we've done every year for 50 years.
There's a lot of talking going on. A lot of talking. Hey, it's amazing how many times you have to say it. It's all. I thought I started thinking about this. Okay, we're going to go do drive XYZ. And someone goes, well, I blocked last year. I walked last year. It's like, okay, everybody know what they're doing? The same people go, so do you want me to... And I'm like, wait a minute, you said you did that. And it never fails.
Well, and I think, I know, so I brought Shamus down to Doc's trap shoot, and Shamus was giving me his blow-by-blow, play-by-play of, hey, I posted here last year, but if I was 20 yards in this direction, that's where all the deer went. And I said, well, you know why the deer went there, don't you? Well, no, why? Because you weren't there. So next year, if you go there, they're going to go where you were last year. Then you're going to tell yourself, I should have been in that spot I was last year.
He's not going to sleep for days, Steve. Not going to sleep for days. It blew his mind.
we're gonna get Shamus on the podcast, and we're gonna have him talk about the deer he missed laying down in a field during a push because it was hilly and it was his first time, and what to do when a landowner identifies you and decides to go talk to you about deer hunting.
Well, we can make a whole episode out of community relations, and that could fall under that: access, permission, deer management, and blurred lines.
Well, there for a few years, I was designated the guy that the person would come talk to about deer hunting on a certain section of land. I don't know how I got volunteered that way, but I just got identified. I don't know if I wore the brightest orange or what, but they zeroed in on me, Todd.
They said you look like the person who knows. And it was even better when it was your first year. It was even better. It was perfect. Listen, and I think you're identifying that they had the choice on who they wanted to talk to, and they selected you for your superior characteristics and qualities.
I don't disagree. I am a social butterfly when it comes to hunting. And do you know what I learned quite quickly, Todd? Even before I got approached by these people that would come talk to me, the number one thing you do not say is, "Oh, I'm hunting with the Coffelts."
Well, that's exactly right.
What you tell them is, "Oh, I'm with Doc Richards.
That's
I'm
right.
with that group."
Just it's that way you have a plan and you can follow through on the plan. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I remember one push when the guy drove by several times very slow and then decided to ask me what I was doing on that section of land.
Didn't he ask
I
you
said,
who you were?
I mean, no, he didn't even ask me who I was.
He was naturally inquisitive.
He knew what group I was part of because this group always hunted this way, and evidently somebody did not give him the heads up that we were going to do that Sunday morning. And I felt the wrath of not letting him know we were going to be there. And at the end there were some choice words, some yelling and screaming, and me standing there looking at him. And when he finally calmed down, my question to him was, "So can I still stand here and push this piece of ground, or should I need to leave?" And there were a few expletives, and he drove off. So I took that as a yes, Todd.
I took
that as a yes.
Implied consent. Implied consent.
At least he didn't say, "I wish you large kids wouldn't climb over the fence because you stripped the staples off the fence and my cows get out."
He said it after that year. I think he pegged you. I think he pegged you. He had narrowed it down and identified that. Our whole
I told
group
him
is
he needs stronger
suffering from
staples. If you want to get this fence to stand up to these hunters, you get stronger staples because we got to climb over these fences.
I'm not
or
saying
put a big
that.
hole in the bottom so we can roll under it.
I'm not saying that. Not going to happen. Well, let's wrap it up for today, Steve. It's been good talk. We've got, like we said, we've got an interview coming up with Doc Richard after this podcast. We're going to keep everybody posted on the podcast off with the Kelsey brothers. And then that Liars Club, we need to get their participation so we can get set up for the State Fair Parade, and any thoughts that they want to put into the satchel that you're carrying around.
And working on another meat locker interview, so get a little locker talk, and then Todd and I are going to reach out to some craft brew places, so we will not only have local meat lockers on, but we're going to have some craft brews on here as well.
Definitely. I have a few ideas.
Do we call those a tease? Is that a tease, Todd?
That's a tease, and I am taking it on sincerely that I'm going to find the brewery that wants to sit down with us and tell their story. So
over a beer,
we'll
probably
follow through on that. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Share it with someone you know who knows the difference between a good brisket and a great one. Until next time, stay sharp, stay wild, and keep your ammo dry.